What is the latest on Mustafa Ali? He wants out of WWE, but apparently they're not releasing him. What is the latest on him and his potential lack thereof WWE future? Plus, we have backstage news on Ronda Rousey, who got her ready for the Royal Rumble. A recently released WWE Superstar was involved. News about the WWE quarterly business call is out, and the Hall of Fame. What is going on with WWE having a unique presentation with this year's WWE Hall of Fame and how it ties into SmackDown? We're getting into all that on today's Sportskeeda top story of the day. You share that link or you stink.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Diehards are with us. I love you guys. If you're with us live, if you're watching on demand, thank you so much. If you're listening on demand, thank you so much as well for putting us on the charts. Once again, in multiple countries on the Apple Wrestling charts. If you're listening to the podcast, let us know what you think. Give us a review. If you're just listening to the podcast as well, give us a review. That really helps us climb up the old proverbial podcast ladder. So tons of content from us wherever you can get it at Sportskeeda. Let's get right into it. I'm Kev Kellam. That is Jose G. Lead off story here. The very angry circumstance, it seems like on social media, of Mustafa Ali. He wants out of WWE. Reportedly had a very big argument with Vince McMahon about his creative direction as a solo performer. He was at one point the head of the Retribution group that kind of went and came and went. He did some big things. He was featured on 205 Live when that brand was created. And he's been, featured on, several big pay-per-views, but never in a main event scenario, right? But not everyone gets to. And now it seems like he's pretty frustrated with a new version of his character not really being adapted. He presented some stuff a few months ago, and he's wanted out. He's been very public about this on social media. Now we're learning that he was offered some type of role, or at least a role was pitched to him in some form or another for the Royal Rumble. And then he even tweeted during the Royal Rumble, no, thank you for the Royal Rumble. I want my release. Now, what are we hearing about why WWE is not releasing him?
Yeah, man. So as you guys know, Mustafa Ali has been requesting his release now for several weeks. And the report from Fightful Select came out that they don't want to, give him his release. And what Fightful Select learned via their WWE source is that the term value was used in reasoning behind keeping Mustafa Ali under contract. He hasn't been brought back to TV since the argument that he had with Vince McMahon over the creative direction of Mustafa Ali. Despite those two things, as of now, they're told that there are no working plans in creative for Mustafa Ali, which could certainly change at any moment, especially with the Elimination Chamber show going down in Jeddah in a few weeks. Also, there's also been very little correspondence between WWE and Mustafa Ali. We do know right now that the contract that Mustafa Ali has with WWE is well over a year. But right now, dude, it just seems like there's no communication between Mustafa Ali. They don't know what direction to push him in, and they're not giving him his release. So he's stuck in limbo right now, Kevin.
I mean, the word was value. There's still value seen in him, and that's why they don't want to release him on the open market while you have the guy under contract for more than a year, which is really, really different than other people. They released plenty of different talent that they felt like, all right, we don't have anything going on. We're not doing house shows, pandemic. That happened in 2020 into 2021, right? But then you see these big numbers come out about the TV contract money coming in and live events starting up again, and they're still not releasing people that they feel they can do some different things with. Aggravates fans. You have this guy. It's definitely. I mean, fans are going to be like, "Oh, it's WWE versus this guy," right? I think that's perception, and that's reasonable. But if WWE doesn't want to release him and he's under contract, do they have to? This guy's going to get a downside guarantee. All right, he's still going to get paid in some way or another, as far as I know.
Yeah, and, I mean, he's contractually obligated to stay within the company for that amount of time. He's not doing it. Sitting and catering, collecting a check. I mean,
he's not even going to events. He's in Chicago training in a wrestling gym and posting videos. Man, that's what's going on. And so I'm of the thought maybe they can pitch something that gets him to come back, but. They did this with Brody Lee. He asked for his request, and they put him in a tag team. There was an injury, right, in the tag team again, and that was after he asked for his release, and he still wanted out.
Just to think about this also, too, Kevin, that in an alternate universe, in the multiverse of wrestling, Mustafa Ali was probably WWE champion. If it wasn't for Mustafa Ali, Kofu Mania would have never happened, right? He got injured out of that, and then he came back after that injury with the hacker gimmick. Nothing really, formed out of that. Then we got Retribution. Retribution was disbanded in less than 6 months. And then he had this program with Mansoor, and that went down the drain like just a few months. So I don't know what they're planning on doing with Ali. I did like that video with the new America, that new version of America that he wants to present. I think that was a cool gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what happens with it, man. I think as a performer, Mustafa Ali is very, very good and underrated in WWE.
And also an international talent, and they're an international company, and he represents an audience that they want to grow, and in the Middle East and develop out from that. And I think he would want to be a part of something different with that type of audience. He said, I want to project a character that isn't just the common foreign, villain. And I think when he was playing a villainous character, he was playing a pretty compelling one too. Mm-hmm. So who knows? Justin Eugene saying send him to NXT. I don't know if he's a guy that wants to do that. I'm not speaking for him. If that was something that he could have done, I think he would have already done it. Is that fair to say?
I think so. Especially with all the brand new talent that's coming out of NXT that they're trying to push, he's going to get lost in the mix just as easily down there that he would have in the main roster. So I don't think NXT is even the solution for him.
I like this one here from David Barclay. Thank you so much, Dave. He goes, someone at Creative, that's production team that writes the storylines, should approach Ali and talk to him about turning this heat into a real angle. If he's angry, make a program out of it. He's a wrestler still, right? There's some truth to that. Can you make lemonade out of these lemons you got here?
Absolutely. I think it could be a compelling story if you could blend in some of that reality.
But then it's going to be like Retribution then. It's going to come off like the whole idea of Retribution was these characters that were in WWE that didn't have anything going on, and we're going to put them together as like a hacker group, and he was a hacker, right? And it went nowhere because you jobbed him out, So I don't know. Do you want to do the hacker thing again? You have to go backwards to go forward, right? I don't know. With him, he strikes me as a guy.
Take 2 steps forward to take 1 step back. I don't know.
But he strikes me as a guy who doesn't want to do that. I think there's things he wants to do character-wise within a WWE type organization and presentation. He's not getting to do, and he wants out. So Steven Chambers saying Cesaro and Ricochet and other names that are not happy. Well, tying this into the whole Mustafa Ali being unhappy news, we get news from old Millennial Meltzer himself, Sean Rossap and Fightful Select, that there is a level of among certain, not all, it's worth noting, WWE superstars of low morale following the messy production of the Men's Royal Rumble this past weekend. And we heard about all the news. We covered it yesterday with Shane McMahon being ushered out of the company over the whole thing. All right. And that was very dramatic. And then some people are upset about the lack of consistency with storylines, that it just feels like there's only a handful of people that actually get a real focus with television as compared to others. And it's hard. I'm not devaluing that, but it's hard to say that that's a consensus, but you're getting that from a handful of people. Obviously, they're not in a position to reveal those sources,
Exactly. So, and it also doesn't reflect the opinions of the entire locker room, right? Because, that could be maybe just 2 or 3 people who are speaking out loud. Maybe these are people that are on TV, they're not being utilized. So therefore they feel that way, but you ask some of these guys that are on TV constantly, I bet you they probably feel like they're doing pretty good, for the exception of a few, like for example, Cesaro, he wasn't featured on the Royal Rumble, but he's on TV every single week.
Richard Rinaldi saying, let him go. Guess he's referencing Ali here. Let him go. He's better off. Vince doesn't care. Well, here's the thing. If they did let him go, I think that would be them saying they don't care, right? I think they're not letting him go because I think they do care. They don't like. There's some like why would we let him go if we think he's going to go do something else, something else? This is the everyone against.
They're just keeping him only for these Saudi shows, dude. This is the only reason they're keeping him.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that because then he'd be
besides him. There's only one other Middle Eastern talent, and that's Mansoor. And they're not even using.
You have Sami Zayn, but
right
Sami
now.
Zayn's not going to work these shows. He's serious.
He doesn't want to go.
He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to work him. And I understand some people don't want to work him. Yeah, that's fine. There's no judgment in that. I understand issues with it. Who knows, man? This is me like defending WWE. I just think there's so much more to this than we ever really know until everything gets kind of told years later.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. People get lost in the system. They don't get what they want out of it. They don't want to give you what you want within that system.
Give me what I want.
Give me what I want.
Give me what I want.
Shout out to people who are watching, by the way, in California. We have people watching in Australia, and Texas, and Iowa. If you're watching for the first time, tell us where you guys are watching from here.
Appreciate you.
You have to, before we get into this other news here of the day, want to ask you, you have to catch a little bit of the WWE quarterly business call. We'll get all the laid out information from that within the day here. But what did you catch from that?
Yeah, man. So they reported killer earnings as always. And one of the big noticeable things was the Disney deal, right? So the Disney deal that came from Indonesia, just like we talked about and reported here in the top story, and my gut feeling was an experimental move for them, and yet they confirmed it because they are also the legs behind the Ronda Rousey documentary special docuseries that they got on Disney Plus. They're the executive producers. I did not know that. So WWE has one full leg pretty much deep in the deep end with Disney. So don't be surprised if we see more Disney deals come out later, announced later in the year. They also talked about their upcoming TV deals with Fox and USA and Peacock. They mentioned that they feel very optimistic and very happy with their positions. And most likely they will be staying with NBC and Fox. Apart from that, they are looking to get into the metaverse. That was a big piece of news.
Everyone's every major media company's doing
throughout the quarterly. Because right now with the metaverse, you're able to buy real estate, buy ad places. We could put on a whole top story show on the metaverse and make a killing. And it looks like WWE has always been at the forefront when it comes to technology and broadcasting, even with social media. Remember Tout back in 2013? Remember when that was the thing? remember when that was the thing? WWE was on that. So WWE
send us your touts, everybody. Send us
exactly.
Your touts.
So WWE is not afraid to jump into newer technology that's gonna make sense for them as a company to put more eyes on the product. They notice that all the demographic of the 20-year-olds and the early 30s, they're getting into the metaverse. The metaverse is growing. So don't be surprised in the next few years that you see WWE on the metaverse. You can watch WrestleMania in the metaverse. You can be front row at a WrestleMania show in the metaverse.
Of course, WWE had some good numbers as well from Royal Rumble that they publicly put out in terms of like merchandise being sold, and we're not even at WrestleMania, 2 nights in a football stadium with all that merch and people traveling, so it'll be something here. Roland Curtis, always so courteous with the super chats, and you can send in yours if you want as well. Does WWE's refusal to let Mustafa Ali go mean that McMahon is okay with smaller sized wrestlers? Should WWE and AEW consider new cruiserweight divisions? Can we get rid of the idea that Vince McMahon only likes big wrestlers? I understand that's an established like preconceived trope with the approach since the 80s. That has been something that people say. But how many smaller wrestlers that have been main event guys do you have to see to understand that there is massive exceptions to the rule or that idea? With Rey Mysterio, with Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels could be considered a cruiserweight. You have guys that are in that 210 range that are not very much bigger than a 205 wrestler. Do they need a new cruiserweight division? No, I think 205 Live has sort of run its course. If they told me tomorrow it was not going to be a show anymore, as bummed as I would be because I loved the introduction of it, it just kind of became another wrestling show that WWE has. And they need characters on it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it became an extension, really. It's another hour of NXT. Best way of describing it right now.
Yeah, the cruiserweight division has been a very tricky thing, right? Because it was prominently featured in WCW over 20 years ago. WWE tried to introduce it and had a very short run. They retired the title. Then 2016, we see this new wave of wrestlers, this you would say these hybrid kind of wrestlers that were putting on these incredible matches. This was
and there was a wealth of them.
Boom. This was the big indie wrestling boom in 2016, the big indie wrestling boom, and WWE capitalized on that. I don't know. Maybe this is something that kind of works in intervals, right? Like maybe you should do the Cruiserweight Classic like you do the Olympics every 4 years. Just do something like that. I don't think WWE or AEW necessarily needs to have a cruiserweight division, because once you start putting a cruiserweight division, you put titles, I think people are going to start getting lost in the mix of things.
And
That's just me.
the issue with AEW, I can say this from being at the show last night, they have a lot of wrestlers that are in that size range.
Mm-hmm.
They have many wrestlers that are in that size range. The bigger guys in AEW really stand out. They like when you see them live, a Lance Archer, a Powerhouse Hobbs, who was just at ringside, they really look different in comparison to everyone else there. And that's no shot at, they should have bigger wrestlers, they should have more of them. No. But you have plenty of, 250 guys in WWE, and that's okay. It's all right. That's an approach and a different way of looking at things. And that's all individual talents as well. Let's get into this story about the WWE Hall of Fame. The plans for WrestleMania week are coming together. It will be 2 nights in Dallas. They will have a Friday night SmackDown prior to night 1 of WrestleMania and a Monday Night Raw following night 2 of WrestleMania. The Hall of Fame induction will be added to this year's presentation. Obviously, with the pandemic the past few years, they've had to do a no fans edition. They combined 2 years of classes last year into one. And we have a word here that if you're going to SmackDown that Friday night before night 1 of WrestleMania in Dallas, seems like you're going to have a pretty cool ticket, because you're going to get SmackDown immediately followed by the WWE Hall of Fame in the same presentation. So are they going to be in the ring? Is it going to be on the stage? Are you going to be able to buy floor seats for that? Is the whole floor just going to be, family and superstars attending this? What is the production like that? Because normally when they've done the Hall of Fame, it's ran in the same arena. WWE will run a football stadium for Mania, and they'll have an arena that they run as well in the same town. And that's usually the Friday night thing or the Thursday night thing. It's separate from Mania. Sometimes it was the Saturday night thing, right? It's an interesting thing, and it makes it a hot ticket to get SmackDown right before Mania. You get the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, same arena, same crowd, same building, that same night.
This is gonna be fun for the fans who attend SmackDown that night, because they're gonna get a twofer, right? They're gonna get 2 shows in one. What's interesting about this, that this show is going to be going head to head with AEW Rampage. Even though they're going to be streaming on Peacock, it's still going to be on the time slot. So if The Undertaker is being inducted this year into the Hall of Fame,
everyone seems it's going that way.
Well, will that draw eyes? Will that draw eyes away from AEW Rampage?
Absolutely,
just to see The Undertaker being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, it would. Absolutely, it would. And if you're WWE and you can do it this year, do it. You know what I mean? Do it.
Just do it.
Do it.
Just do it.
And also, like, I would hope that, do we get an announcement? We have no announcements for the Hall of Fame. We have no announcements for who's going in this year.
Not yet. I told you before we went live that I have a feeling it's either going to be on the Elimination Chamber or the day after at Raw, or the Raw after Elimination Chamber.
My thing is, I think you would put that out now. Those SmackDown tickets, I believe, are not on sale. I know the Raw after WrestleMania tickets have already gone on sale. So in terms of selling the ticket, for the live fan that's going to be there, you already have WrestleMania tickets already on sale. Those are moving at a solid click. Everyone's like, they're not selling out. It's okay. WrestleMania is the type of show, it doesn't sell out. It'll sell more tickets the closer you get to it. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't sell out. Who knows? It's still going to do well, Not everything has to sell out to do well, by the way. So I'm of the thought that I hope they announce it soon, because then you would be like, oh, wow, I got to get a ticket for that. And I'm going. And do I want to buy a ticket to SmackDown so I can go to the Hall of Fame? I've never been to a Hall of Fame.
As we get closer to the Hall of Fame weekend, Tony Khan will be trash talking on Twitter, according to Steven Chambers. Because
why would he be trash talking?
Because he's going to want to try to ruffle up the AEW tribe and just be like, we're not going to watch this Hall of Fame, and we're going to be loyal to AEW Rampage because it only gets 350,000 views on a Friday night at 10 p.m.
You're stepping. You're trying to whiz on the electric fence there, because here's the issue with that. With AEW and their culture, there's so much more of like, hey, we know we're a newer company, but we have reverence for our legends.
Yeah. So
are you now going to say, don't watch the legends get their roses? Are you going to say that? Are you going to?
True. That's true.
where are we at here?
That's very true.
And also, is AEW going to say like, hey, let's run Rampage on a different night that week?
Maybe they run, and it's not like you can run it on Saturday because it's WrestleMania Saturday. So I mean, that's just.
You don't want to run Saturday. You don't want a Friday. Can we get Thursday? Can you get us in on a Thursday before everybody gets going?
I don't know, man. I don't know if that's the smartest thing to run head to head with the Hall of Fame, especially if the Undertaker is getting inducted. That's going to be a massive Hall of Fame. I think that's going to be good. Let's jump into another story here that I found really interesting today, Kevin. Ronda Rousey, she had an interview and discussed her training regimen before coming back into the Royal Rumble and gave huge praise to Ember Moon, former NXT Women's Champion, WWE Superstar. She gave kudos to Ember Moon on social media, saying, "Thank you for helping me getting ready for the Royal Rumble," at Athena Palmer, which is her name that she goes by now. And if you want to train with her, check out her school, thewrestlingdojo.com. So not only putting over Ember Moon, but also the wrestling academy that she goes, that she trained at. But I found that very telling, man, that, Ronda Rousey kind of going back to basics here, training at an academy, getting her feet wet, getting some of that ring rust off. And who better to do it than Ember Moon, man? Ember Moon is so good in the ring. And she came across okay on Royal Rumble. Nothing too crazy. I wasn't a fan of all the body shots that she was doing, but the big moves that she needed to do, she nailed them. And I think she did pretty well.
I don't know if her actual in-ring style of maneuvers, which are based on, her judo background and her MMA background, a lot of grappling, a lot of rolling from one power move into another. Those were exciting when she debuted and when she did singles matches. I don't know if it lends itself to the Royal Rumble where you don't have as much space and there's a lot of people in the ring, but I did think it was fine. It worked and the way and also I thought the women's match was better than the men's. I think that's kind of fair. But I'm of the thought that you got to get ready, and you got to do it with people that you trust. And the fact that Ember is somebody that, Ronda trusts is pretty impressive. Also Athena, I can tell you, I knew her in her time before WWE. She's very well respected in terms of people in the business. Oh,
yeah.
She has
Booker T is big on her. Booker T loves her.
Yeah, has a great reputation. Great rotation on the independent circuit. Would not surprise me if she's picking up dates in WrestleMania week. We've seen some talent already commit to WrestleMania week events that are not ran by the WWE. There is the WrestleCron.
Is that a mix of wrestling and Omicron?
Yes.
There's a new one now. There's a new one now, right? It's called Stealth Omicron. So it's sneaky. Dude, you can't see it come.
No, but at this point, there could be a WrestleCron, depending on how people not wearing their masks and all that stuff. So
let's stop. Okay, WrestleCon.
So WrestleCon is running. That's a convention. GCW is running their own convention called The Collective. They'll have many shows on it. A lot of names announced for it. Impact, AAA, and New Japan are going to be running events in Dallas WrestleMania week with WrestleCon. Collective going to be running some big shows as well, kind of boutique shows around different things. So I would expect some of that released WWE talent to be featured on some of those events if they haven't been announced already. We know that Bray Wyatt will be at WrestleCon. We know that some other talent are going to be involved that are released from WWE. I expect more in the weeks to come here.
Oh, I mean, we just had a bunch of them that got cleared from their 90-day yesterday. So so we're probably going to see a flood of talent at WrestleCon.
And also just starting to announce their independent dates. I can tell you I'm going to be at AEW tomorrow on pay-per-view. Fight TV. Go get that $13 pay-per-view. You don't want a SmackDown. We got it for you. Big match on that show. Mike Bennett going to be taking on Josh Alexander. WWE versus Impact on the AEW show. It's going to be pretty sweet. Link for that's going to be in my Twitter at KevCom. Let's jump into this.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy. Big piece of news here. Yeah, we got this. Just a quick update. I reminded you guys yesterday while watching the debrief that Raw and NXT will be running on Sci-Fi for the next 2 to 3 weeks due to the Olympic coverage on NBC. What I wanted to update you guys on, make sure you're watching because today Andrew Zarian reported from the Matman podcast, reported that both Raw and NXT 2.0 will be airing with limited commercials. So that is great news. If you're a fan of the product, You know how these 3-hour shows get flooded with like an hour and a half of worth of commercials. So there's going to be less commercials during Raw and NXT for you guys who are diehards who watch Raw and NXT every single Monday and Tuesday. Just that little piece of news. And especially the reason that they're doing this is because this is the go home week for the Elimination Chamber. So they really want, because the Olympics are going on and they understand that, they really want to put that product in front of you with limited commercials. Hey, we got this big show coming out this weekend. You got to watch it. Hence why Raw and NXT 2.0 are both limited commercials.
Tough time to be having that preemption from the Olympics right before a big, pay-per-view premium live event.
Mm-hmm.
But this is all, think about that. NBC is going to have the Olympics and a big WWE pay-per-view going on at the same time.
NBC's the winner here, right?
Hopefully.
They got the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. They got the Olympics coming out in the next 3.
You're going to get the Super Bowl on Peacock too, by the way.
You're getting the Super Bowl on Peacock. So, I mean, NBC's the real winner here.
Yeah, but they got to get more subs for that service in general. You got to get more people jump over you think you think they would have a lot more because it's just tied to your cable system.
Yeah, well, one positive thing that they did report on the quarterly call today was from a WWE network standpoint, when they had the direct-to-consumer model, right?
Where it was exclusively ran by WWE.
Exclusively ran by WWE. They only had just a little bit over 1 million subscribers. Now with Peacock, they've seen a 2 million increase. So they got over 3.5 million subscribers on the Peacock Network, paid subscribers on the Peacock Network. So good for them for that too, man.
It's more accessible. It's tied to people's cable systems, as I mentioned. It's easier to find. You're getting that casual fan that'll say like, I watch Royal Rumble. Yeah, sure. And then, I get all the episodes of SNL or all the episodes of Office. This is the way things are going.
Oh, I binge watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine, my favorite sitcom, dude.
Yeah, great show. And there's some things on Peacock. I was watching the new MacGruber show, which is pretty funny.
Oh, did you like it? Because I didn't like the movie, so I was like,
you didn't like the movie?
Love the movie. I don't know if I wanted to get into the series, but apparently
if you don't like the movie, you won't like the series. You won't like the series. Yeah. So things are good. Some things are bad. It's good to report some good news.
Especially with all the negativity coming out of this weekend from Royal Rumble. It's always good to report some positive news. But yeah, man, I think it should be exciting these next few weeks. Let's see what happens and this build up to Elimination Chamber.
Andy Wilson said, Kev, you had a safe flight back home. I didn't fly. I took a train and I drove from St. Louis. So it was a wild weekend. Have you ever checked
did you see how covered St. Louis is in snow right now?
Oh,
I saw a report before we went live, and they had, like 4, maybe 5 feet of snow. It was just completely whited out in St. Louis. I was like, dude, imagine if that storm would have caught the Royal Rumble. It probably would have been a way different show.
Elijah Washington noting that there is some big thing that Heyman is teasing on Twitter. Paul Heyman is teasing on Twitter.
Yeah, he said he's going to be spilling the beans and give an explanation to what he did or why what he did on Saturday night at the Rumble.
So that'll follow up on this week's SmackDown on Friday night. Ronda Rousey also going to be making an appearance there as well. So a lot going on here with WrestleMania ramifications here in the next 48 hours or so. Did you enjoy the show? Did you like it? How come you haven't hit the like button yet if you're watching live? If you're listening on the podcast side of things, go ahead and give us a 5-star review, whatever podcast app you're on, and subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling wherever you can find it. On the YouTubes, more than 25,000 subscribers. We now make the march to double that number. We want to double it. We want to get even higher than that. Every Friday night, Dutch Mantel with us after SmackDown and Rampage. Monday nights, Vince Russo, bro, with us after Raw. And plus, we have exclusive interviews just on last week with Liv Morgan, AJ Styles, many more from the WWE. Thank you guys for checking out the show. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon with even more content right around this time, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. If you want to join us live, of course, you get a new episode from us every weekday as well. So thank you guys so much for supporting it. And remember, when watching wrestling, do the most important thing, whether you're watching the debrief last night after a wild AEW Dynamite with that son of a bitch, MJF. All right, that son of a bitch. No goodness. No. Please, when you're watching wrestling, please do this important, critical thing. You have to do it. You have to take a breath. You have to throw your fantasy booking out the window and just let the wrestling come off the screen and into your brain and enjoy
wrestling.
Someone who had a enjoy wrestling sign front row at Raw. Thank you. I saw that comment earlier. I appreciate that. And enjoy wrestling.
See you guys.
Watch out, watch out, watch out.